Hello guys and welcome to another episode on the history of Ragnum. Last time we left off on the events where Meinberg collapsed and the Empire of Syrinx was formed. Additionally to that, the Triplet states were formed shortly after this period, and today we're gonna cover their story. The first of the three triplet states was Cameronia. It was first formed before the other two, and it was formed under the leadership of Kawaii Killer or Palate Goat, and he had his second hand, Senpapi's Papi, who will also play a strong historical role in the foundation of Cameronia, that would also be later known as just Cameronia. Shortly after Cameronia, Ironville and Lentro were formed. They were all formed around the area of the Eternal Lake. Cameronia had ambitions on conquering the whole Eternal Lake. They also laid claims to all of its shores before any nation had ever appeared. However, they weren't able to go through with the conquering of the Eternal Lake because they never really created the settlements to be recognized on their claim. Either ways, whenever Ironville and Lentro were created, they were also been put under pressure by Cameronia because Cameronia saw them in its own claims that they wanted to take over, and they were somewhat blackmailing them, telling them that they won't be scared from an invasion or from invading both these nations. And under this pressure, Ironville, who was led by Heisenberg or Zom King, and Lentro was led by Creamy Tea, formed an alliance. However, this alliance was directed towards Cameronia, but Cameronia itself, the leader of Cameronia, was inactive. So Cameronia was seen as inactive after a while, and the leader got usurped by his own second hand, Senpapi's Papis, and that's when the name got changed to Cameronia. And Cameronia ended up joining that alliance that ironically was created to stop Cameronia, you know. However, this alliance was also a Surasian idea proposed to them so they can protect each other from any intruders, as three small states they were prone to attack. And now these states were really different than the other states that had appeared so far in Ragnum. They would have a lot of work based on their economy, and unlike Meinberg, they didn't invest a lot in building, but they did invest in economies. So to put it, Ironville, for example, had a really strong economy when it came to slave trade or villager trade. Anyways, Lentro had its economy based on everything that Syrinx had its economy based on. So basically they were rivals in economy. However, Lentro would just sell everything for way much cheaper, or sometimes for even free. Now, one would think this would enrage Syrinx, but Syrinx didn't really care because people still paid to get stuff from Syrinx, because getting to Lentro in the first place was hard and it was way much too deep inland. So Syrinx didn't really see a problem in Lentro having their prices low down because of the location. So they did need that as a plus, so people would buy from them at least. Other than that, additionally to these three nations, Kazumo was formed. Basically, the area of Found Village, it was reformed under the players Ivy Clutch and Cosmic Condrum. And unfortunately, this was also short-lived because Kazumo did end up dismantling shortly after, and the population of Kazumo ended up joining Lentro. Now, at this point in time, it was safe to say that Meinberg was nothing but a ghost town, and basically life on this side of the map was just dead, non-existent. And on the other side, behind Syrinx, these lands were full of lives. Now, as we said, the triplet states were moving ever closer, especially after Senpapi took control of Cameronia. And they formed this triplet alliance where they were going to unify and become one nation. The nation was going to have a massive capital city on top of a mountain between all the three states. However, unfortunately, that never really took place because, first of all, they were slacking in building the city. Second of all, funding was insufficient. And third of all, the nation still didn't really fully agree on everything, and they weren't able to choose a proper leader. To make matters worse, Cameronia was kicked off the realm for a while because of inactivity and suspicious behavior, and it was reported that they sold off a beacon that wasn't theirs, but eventually we found out it was theirs, and there was a lot of confusion and shadiness when it just came to Cameronia. Now, this one united nation never really was created, as we said, and the triplet states stayed split off, which also wasn't very bad because they had good relationships with everybody else. They were three little nations around the same size, and they were all rich. They were all grindy. The only issue was their location. The only good perk was the eternal lake and a little bit of access on the sea or to the ocean from the side of Ironville. And the only problem they had, as we said, was their population and location. Especially Lentro suffered that dearly. They always had a population crisis, as well as Ironville always had a population crisis. They only invested in economy and were only grinding. Basically, they were doing the opposite of Meinberg. Meinberg only invested in building, but they never invested in economy. And the triplet states would only invest in economy, but not invest in building, which made them play more like solo players, like nomads on the realm of Ragnum. Which also led to having no population. The population was just not interested in either living in an AI village or like three houses next to each other. You can tell from the footage there was barely any buildings built, and if anything, in Cameronia there's a floating island with incomplete buildings and a lot of gaps. And all these inconsistencies in building weren't really something that population or new population was interested in, and that's something that Meinberg and Sarix never really suffered from, having low population because of bad building consistency. After all these events with the triplet states, the old nation of Meinberg was planning to reappear. Now, Meinberg was going to be re-established under the name of the Second Kingdom of Meinberg. However, it was the same leader, Jeribu, with the same capital city, Shadowgrass, but under a new name. Shadowgrass was changed into Alveston, and the new kingdom was the Second Kingdom of Meinberg. Now, the Second Kingdom of Meinberg was going to be the cause of a lot of events that took place with Sarix, events that took place within Meinberg itself, and events that led to the birth of new nations, alongside events that were also conflicts that were to appear or take place with the triplet states. The realm of Ragnum was truly growing and having more nations take part in it. And all these events are going to be talked about on the next video of Ragnum. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next one.